All right, let's jump right in. You know, the classic picture we have of a tumor, it's often of this one single type of rogue cell just multiplying like crazy. But that idea? It's really just the tip of the iceberg. It's incomplete. A tumor is so much more than just an invader. It's a master architect, a brilliant, if sinister, ecosystem engineer. It doesn't just show up. It actively remodels its entire neighborhood, corrupting the body's own healthy systems and turning them into a dedicated support crew. And this crew's only job is to help the tumor survive, grow, and eventually spread. If we're going to have any chance of dismantling it, we first have to understand this hidden world it creates.
And this quote from Anderson and Simon in Current Biology, it just nails the central thesis perfectly. This local environment, what we call the tumor microenvironment, or TME, isn't just passive backdrop. It's not the stage on which the play happens. It's a lead actor. It is an active, willing, or rather co-opted accomplice in the entire drama of cancer progression. It's a co-conspirator.
So, let's get into the specifics. What exactly is this corrupt neighborhood? What are the components that a tumor marshals to build this fortress for itself? It's time to formally define what we're talking about when we say tumor microenvironment. Okay, so here's the formal definition. The TME is this complex, dynamic, and constantly evolving ecosystem right there in the immediate vicinity of the tumor. But the part of this definition I really want you to focus on is non-cancerous cells. This is absolutely critical. A tumor doesn't bring its own bricks and mortar. It's a squatter. It hijacks our body's perfectly healthy cells and structures, our fibroblasts, our immune cells, our blood vessels, and it twists their normal functions to serve its own malignant agenda. It's a paradigm of biological hijacking. To really wrap our heads around this, let's use an analogy. Think of the tumor as the head of a criminal organization, staging a hostile takeover of a city block. To do this, it needs to corrupt the key municipal departments. First, it goes after the immune cells. That's the city's police force. Then it needs to build, so it corrupts the stromal cells, the construction crew. Of course, no operation can run without logistics, so it hijacks the blood vessels, turning them into private supply lines. And finally, it reshapes the very ground it stands on, the extracellular matrix, the physical terrain and infrastructure of the tissue itself.
Let's dig into that first group, because it's arguably the most dramatic betrayal of all, the immune system. I mean, these are literally the cells designed to protect us, our cellular police force. So how on earth does a tumor not only evade them, but actually turn them into its own personal bodyguards?
Well, it often comes down to this incredible duality, especially within the T-cell population. On one side, you have your good cops. These are the cytotoxic T lymphocytes, the CD8 positive cells. Their job is to patrol, recognize tumor antigens presented on MHC class I molecules, and execute the kill order. A high infiltration of these cells in a tumor, a hot tumor, is one of the best prognostic indicators we have. But the tumor is clever. It actively cultivates the corrupt cops. These are the regulatory T cells, or Tregs. Now, Tregs have a vital normal function. They prevent autoimmunity by calming the immune system. But the tumor exploits this. It floods the TME with signals that recruit and expand these Tregs, which then pump out immunosuppressive cytokines like TGF-beta and IL-10. They essentially tell the good cop CD8+ cells to stand down and ignore the threat. And this corruption is not limited to T cells. The rot spreads through the entire precinct. Take macrophages. Normally, you have pro-inflammatory killer M1 macrophages that engulf pathogens. The tumor pushes them to polarize towards an M2, healer phenotype. These M2 macrophages promote tissue repair, angiogenesis, and suppress inflammation, all things a growing tumor loves. B cells, too, can be manipulated into becoming regulatory B cells that produce immunosuppressive factors. And perhaps most insidiously, the tumor re-educates dendritic cells. These are the professional antigen-presenting cells, the ones meant to sound the alarm to the T cells. The tumor instructs them to become tolerogenic, essentially training the immune system to accept the tumor as self.
So what's the endgame of all this sabotage? It results in what we call an immune cold or immune silent tumor. By effectively bribing, disabling, and corrupting the local police force, the cancer creates this perfect shield of immunological invisibility. It's a self-enforced no-fly zone for the immune system, allowing the tumor to grow completely undisturbed by our natural defenses. Okay, so the tumor has successfully neutralized the immune threat. The cops are looking the other way. But a growing criminal empire needs more than just a lack of policing. It needs infrastructure. It needs supply lines to bring in nutrients and clear out waste. It needs fortifications. And to get all that, it performs its next great act of hijacking, this time on the body's stromal cells, its dedicated construction and engineering crews. Think about this. Once a tiny tumor nodule grows beyond just 1 or 2 millimeters in diameter, it hits a physical limit. The cells in the center are too far from existing blood vessels to get oxygen and nutrients via simple diffusion. They start to suffocate. This state, hypoxia, triggers a panic response. It stabilizes a key transcription factor, HIF-1 alpha, hypoxia-inducible factor. HIF-1 alpha then switches on a whole cascade of genes designed to solve this problem. And the star player is VEGF, vascular endothelial growth factor. The tumor starts pumping out VEGF, which acts as an SOS signal, a direct command to the endothelial cells lining nearby capillaries. These cells respond by sprouting new vessels and building a brand new private circulatory system right to the tumor's doorstep. This process, tumor angiogenesis, creates a leaky, chaotic, but highly effective supply line. And this leads to another powerful concept, again from Anderson and Simon, this idea that tumors are like wounds that never heal. Think about it. When you get a cut, your body initiates a wound healing response. Inflammation, cell proliferation, new blood vessel growth, and tissue remodeling. A tumor basically hijacks this entire beautiful coordinated process and locks it in the on position permanently. Instead of healing the tissue, all that machinery is now exploited to build the tumor's fortress. And the master foreman of this perpetual construction site is a very special type of cell.
Let me introduce you to the cancer-associated fibroblasts, or CAFs. In a healthy state, fibroblasts are quiet, but during wound healing, they activate to produce collagen and other extracellular matrix components to patch things up. The tumor sends out signals, like TGF-beta, that not only activate nearby fibroblasts, but permanently convert them into a myofibroblast-like state. These CAFs are the tumor's workhorses. They are tireless contractors, secreting growth factors, but most importantly, they are the ones building the physical substance of the TME, creating protective barriers and literally remodeling the terrain to make it easier for cancer cells to invade.
And what exactly are these CAFs building? They're not just piling up random junk. They are meticulously constructing and remodeling a highly complex and functional structure, the extracellular matrix, or ECM. This isn't just a byproduct. It's the very physical manifestation of the tumor's corrupt ecosystem. Now, get ready for a statistic that should honestly blow your mind. If you take a biopsy from a solid tumor, say from pancreatic or breast cancer, you'd assume it's mostly cancer cells, right? Wrong. In many of the most aggressive tumors, the cancer cells themselves are the minority. Up to 60%, sometimes even more, of the total tumor mass is not cancer. It's this dense, fibrous network, the extracellular matrix and the CAFs that built it. The tumor is essentially living inside a massive fortress that it tricked the body into building for it. And please, don't think of this ECM as just inert scaffolding. It's a multifunctional, active component of the TME. First, it's a physical shield, a barrier that immune cells struggle to penetrate. Second, the CAFs actively remodel it, aligning collagen fibers to create literal highways for cancer cells to migrate along, facilitating invasion and metastasis. Third, it's a storage depot. It sequesters huge amounts of growth factors, releasing them as needed to fuel the tumor. And finally, and this is a huge clinical problem, this dense fibrous tissue, a condition we call desmoplasia, can physically increase the pressure inside the tumor and collapse those new blood vessels, preventing chemotherapy drugs from ever reaching their targets. It's a shield, a highway, and a supply closet all in one.
So, let's recap. We've got corrupt cops, hijacked construction crews building a massive physical fortress with its own supply lines. For decades, our main strategy was to just attack the cancer cells themselves, largely ignoring this complex ecosystem. But this deeper understanding of the TME has triggered an absolute revolution in how we approach cancer therapy. We are finally learning to target the entire corrupt system.
This really represents a fundamental shift in military strategy, if you will.
Traditional chemotherapy is a brute force approach. It targets all fast-growing cells. It's like sending an assassin to take out the king. It can work, but it ignores the king's guards, his fortress walls, and all his supply lines. TME-targeted therapy is a much more sophisticated campaign. The goal isn't just to kill the king. The goal is to dismantle his entire support structure. You cut off the supply lines, you turn his army against him, you break down the fortress walls. You leave the king exposed, starving, and vulnerable.
And this new strategy has given us an incredible new arsenal. Immune checkpoint blockade, or ICB, is the perfect example. Drugs like anti-PD-1 or anti-CTLA-4, they block the stand-down signals that the Tregs and tumor cells use. They essentially cut the lines of communication for the corrupt cops, reawakening the CD8 plus T cells to do their job. Then we have anti-angiogenic therapies, which block that VEGF signal we talked about, effectively bombing the supply lines and starving the tumor. And now, at the preclinical and early clinical stages, we're seeing calf-targeted therapies that aim to either kill the calves or reprogram them, essentially trying to dismantle the fortress wall brick by brick.
So here's the crucial takeaway. The tumor microenvironment, for all its complexity, isn't an unbeatable fortress. It's a biological system, and like any system, it has rules, it has dependencies, it has vulnerabilities. By painstakingly mapping those rules, we can develop much smarter, much more precise therapies. We're moving beyond just trying to poison the cancer cells. We're learning how to turn the entire ecosystem against itself, to flip the TME from being the tumor's greatest accomplice into its most fearsome adversary. And that really brings us to the final, provocative question. For so long, the TME represented everything that makes cancer so devilishly difficult to treat. Its ability to defend itself, its resilience, its capacity to co-opt our own bodies. But as we continue to map this inner circle of corruption, the real question becomes this. Can we learn the rules of this ecosystem so intimately, so completely, that we can strategically turn every single one of the tumor's strengths into its biggest, most fatal weakness? The ongoing effort to answer that question, well, that is truly the future of cancer therapy.